Good morning, everyone. It's Joker, and today we are back with another slime video, and it is time to finally test out the new Primordial Yellow Jaune in French, right? That's my French accent. Sorry, French people. I'm an idiot. Um, she, she is a good unit, in her own right as a just stupendously strong DPS, but I'm afraid she's not going to have a lot of use outside of her team, and she's going to fall off to the wayside because other units are going to be more useful elsewhere. But let's see just how good we can make her look. So she is space, she is magic, she's on Vengeance of Coleus, Primal Demon, and Warrior's Mind. She uses a Space Fist just like every other goddamn space unit in this entire friggin' game, so I promise you have spares. Her skills, she's got a single target space magic for 490, no additional effect, so it's pure damage. Her first skill is 100% alt damage for everybody, and a personal synergy power buff of 30%. And you do need someone to give you synergy rate, like the new Lumi or the free-to-play Rimuru Protector, to activate this. If you don't have synergy, then this does nothing for you. And then her second skill is Primal Demon EX alts get another 70% alt buff, and then space resistance down on all enemies if there's multiple. So she has, in her pocket, a literal shit ton of buffs. Like, this is an incredible amount of damage potential just on her alone. So she's going to hit like Truck-kun on steroids, okay? Her Valor trait is nerfing oranges. That's fine, whatever. Her normal trait is if you send 6 blues, you get an extra 5% attack on the next turn. It suits her as a DPS unit. You want to have her up front. You want her doing as much damage as possible, and this will just help you get that little bit extra. So, I mean, let's take her out onto the. I guess we got to revamp the team a little bit, because now that she's the alt buffer, we don't really need Guy anymore, but we still need a green orb changer who's not Cleache, because I really don't like Cleache's orb change. So hold on one second. Okay, we have rebuilt the team. It's the core foundation is still there, obviously, with Violet, Blanc, and Jean. But you know, we have Warrior's Mind Violet, who is a space unit, so technically she is type advantage. It'll help her tank a little bit better. And she's also got the 55% alt resistance down effect on her big cost skill. It also has a physical character crit damage buff, but nobody else is crit or physical, and you don't want to crit on this stage. So we're using her just for the 55% alt resistance down, which is still a pretty hefty buff in and of itself. I mean, you could quote-unquote bring like Light Raphael for his 50% alt resistance down. You just got to make sure you don't actually put the Pierce buff on not Cleache, but Jean, because you don't want to pierce the stage either. So, I mean, there are other options. And then we've also brought Cosma for our turn 1 orb change, because he has the superior effect on his orb change, where it's 10% to all gauges, and not 20% to just alt gauges like Cleache has, and I really don't like that part of her skill. And he's also got another massive buff, 50% defense down, 50% attack up. So this team is rocking an 80-point skill, an 80-point skill, an 80-point skill, an 80 and a 55-point skill, and an 80-point skill. There is a literal shit ton of buffs on this team, and so you're going to hit like a literal shit ton of bricks. But we do need specific setups to do so. Now, as a quick comparison, I pulled up the footage from when Blanc came out, and we were using Guy and Hinata, Water Hinata, to give us a space buff. So we made Violet at the time, because she was still our DPS, we made her do 4.5 million damage with a similar but not quite the same setup. We are going to do a lot more here. A lot more here. So, how much more are we going to do? Well, let's dive in and find out. Okay, we got a good turn 2, finally, where we only have to use 1 orb change. We've done this many, many times. Every showcase, it's 8 turns of stacking. I don't feel like you guys need to sit here and watch 8 turns of this go on and on and on. we understand how this team is supposed to run, right? Full hands of blues, big time nuke. So we're just gonna make a cut here, and then we're gonna come back on like turn 7 or something, and then we'll watch the last 2 turns kind of play out, and then we'll move on. But honestly, like, we understand how the team works. We just want to see the damage. So let's cut and see the damage. So I'll see you guys in a bit. Alright, we are back after multiple attempts to get the run, where we have an EX ult for Jean on turn 7, we have the points, and we have a decent hand where we only have to use 1 orb change to ensure that we have enough points to use everything on turn 8. Because running this team as it stands right now, in order to use every single buff on 1 turn, we would need 455 points. And we are capped at 400, which means that on turn 8, if we get back up, we'll be at 400. So then on turn 9, it'll go to 450, and then on turn 10, we would then have enough to use everything for 1 turn. So obviously that's not really realistic in terms of doing the stage, and probably Jubilee most likely going to be a turn 8 kind of scenario. So what we have to do is we have to use the magic buff now on Jean. That way we can hold it in the back. We'll use this stack of Valentine, and then we'll use the swap and the orb change here. And then by doing this, we can now take out Jean for Violet, and we can then run here. And next turn, hopefully, we will be able to use everything. So we'll send 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So as long as we have 375 points, which we are 378, so it is just barely enough to use everything next turn. I just need an orb, okay, for either of the Violets, which she has an ult, so that's fine. Because we've already used her buff, so we don't need her anymore. We can use the other Violet's buff, because that's just a debuff, and no one has to be up front for that. So we can freely swap out either Violet now, and I think we'll do it for the old Violet. Cool. And then we can swap out the new Violet, because we've used her buff already. And then we can use literally everything else here. So we've got the 100% ult damage, synergy power, the EX ult damage, space resistance down, attack up and defense down, and then the weakness buff and synergy resistance down. And that leaves us with a cool 3 points left over. So this is very obviously not a normal team. This is for big mommy damage, probably a Jubilee. It's going to take a lot of RNG because it's taken the better part of like 8 hours to do this fucking thing, which is not a joke. So let's see just how much big mommy damage we can do with Jean. Taking a look at her stats, she has 152% on the stacks. We have the 5% from each trait, 100% magic attack, 100% synergy rate, synergy power, attack up, weakness strike. Her ult is 170% buffed right here between the two. And then Hinata has ult resistance down, space resistance down, defense down, and synergy resistance down. So we're going to send the 1 normal orb here, and then the ult. Let's go ahead and turn this on. And we'll see just how much damage we do. I swear to God, if we pierce or crit here, I'm just going to rip footage from another video or something like that, because I don't want to do this anymore. So let's see. 212k on 1 orb. That's quite a bit of damage right there. And then Jean's good-looking ult. It's very nicely animated, and it's quite flashy. It's like the Hinata. Most of the Hinata ults are very flashy too. Full blast. Jean does how much damage? 6.6 million. 6.6 million damage right there on this very, very damage-optimized setup, which takes a shit ton of RNG. Now, will normal people ever hit 6.6 million? No, probably not, because they don't want to deal with this type of shit right here, right? This is not, I would consider, I mean, it's a good team, but it's an unrealistic team, which is the whole point of me making this video, is unrealistic necessity that Jean is. Like, again, we have the clip where we did 4.5 million with Violet, and that was plenty of damage to beat this stage. 6.5 million is another 2 million on top of that. So, did we need another 2 million? No. Is it cool to have another 2 million damage? Yes. So, obviously, she is good at doing damage. But let's swap these places right here. Hold on one second. Alright, so in an effort to, I guess, diversify and show how much additional damage not only that Jeanne gives, brings to the team by nuking herself, she also is giving other units the ability to do more damage. So that's what we're going to do here today. We are back on turn 8 with the same team. We've just now swapped places with Jeanne and the new Violet. And we've made Violet into the DPS because Violet, being a space unit, will benefit from the space resistance down, will benefit from the 100% ult damage, and will benefit from the extra 70% EX ult damage that Jeanne is bringing to the team. So let's go ahead and use everything. It's the same team format, I've just swapped the supports and moved Violet to the back instead, and making her a DPS. Or instead of keeping her as a support, we made her a DPS. So let's lower the ult resistance, and then we can swap Violet out of here, or Violet, and we should have enough points to do everything. So we've already used the magic buff, so let's use the weakness and synergy, let's use the ult damage, let's use the EX ult damage and space resistance, and yes, we have just enough to use the Kazuma debuff as well. So, I mean, this should do quite a hefty chunk of damage. We'll get Blanc out of here because we don't need her really. And then we'll use the attack up and the defense down. So we know what Jeanne can do, right? But how much extra damage is Violet going to do here if you happen to get like a perfect setup with both of them have EX ults? And we got fairly close here. Like, Jeanne's only a little bit away. Had we gotten a few more orbs for her, it would have been great. But let's go ahead and see what the Violet nuke is, just for funsies. She's going to hit really hard. Shock surprise, but how hard? Remember, we did 4.5 million in the old setup. What are we going to do here? 5.5 million. Okay, so we added another milli onto the top of that. Again, not an insignificant gain. Just adding 1 million damage here and there for funsie onesies. It is really good. We certainly didn't need another 1 million damage though. So, all right, well, that was the fun part. Let's move on to a different setup, I guess. All right, next we're just gonna build a team full of orb changers, and we're just gonna try and rush Jeanne's ult because by herself she is a very capable damaging unit because she has so much available to her. So we've got Trainee to give us the orb change. All 4 of these units are orb changers. 3 of them are free to play. And she also has the ult rush ability, which gives, ult gauge to the highest attacking unit, which is very obviously Jeanne. And we'll put her under Diablo since she is under Primal Demon, and he does buff Primal Demon right here by 20%. And we're going to go into the old Space Tempered Edge, so, I mean, obviously this is not a difficult stage by any means at this point in the game. It's a year and a half old. But if we only have her as our main source of damage, I think it'll be fine. And it'll just be a showcase of what she can do if you just make her a pure damage support type, which a lot of people probably will do, because like I said, he's free, she's free, he's free, she's old, and she's quite a good unit still. So, I mean, if you just dedicate all of your resources on the team to just buffing and getting a lot of stacks of Protector and getting her EX ult, she'll do fun damage for you, and she'll probably clear most of the game. So let's get a good starting hand and let's try it out. Alright, we'll see if we can just start early rushing, because we just got 4 trainee orbs right here. This Milim, again, you can nuke her on turn 6, or you can nuke her on turn 11 if you want to do maximum power damage, which obviously we don't really need to do here because we look how much damage we took off of 4 orbs. Oh, okay, well, I mean, this works out because we can just do this, and then we get a full hand of blues. So there we go. That worked out fairly well. This will get us quite a bit of gauge now. And we can also start rushing Jean's ult here. Is that what I want to do, though? No, I think I'll do that next turn. Yeah, I think I'll do that next turn. Alright, guard, 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 guard. Cool. So this is going to be like... Okay, so how do I want to word this? If you have a team built around her, then she can probably look good on her own. And she doesn't need much else because she's giving herself so much support. On the other hand, if you don't have a team that built around her, like you don't have the basics of a blue stacking team, you don't have a blue stacking protector, she's really gonna struggle because her skills are not cheap. They are not things you just use willy-nilly. This is your entire point bar if you don't have a stacking protector, or anyone that gives you additional points. And this is, you know, more than half. So you really got to be conscious of what team you're making when trying to put her on. And she's generally going to be your DPS. Trying to use her as a support unit, technically it can work, but because her buffs are limited, and you know, have to have space units for the space resistance account, and you have to have synergy for the synergy powered account, you had to have an EX buff, and you had to be a primal, or you had to have an EX ult, and you had to be primal demon for that buff to really, you know, take effect. She's not really suited as a support unit. You can try and force her into the role. It's not going to work very well though. So in that aspect, she's really only meant, okay, we gotta turn that off, really only meant to be a pure mainline damage unit, and any other usage of her is just, I think, kind of a waste. So let's get the Rimuru in here again, I guess, for Romulus? Yeah, so I think we can do this instead. So we'll use Geld now to give away all the blue orbs to Jean, and then we'll save the ult rush ability for next turn, and this is, yeah, that'll get her EX ult, and then I think by turn 6 we'll actually be ready to nuke, because we only have to use, what, 80, so 135 points worth of buffs to actually get her done. So this actually does work out. So I guess in a way you could very quickly try and rush her ult, if you have a team set up to do so, and it's just purely orb changing focused, and you have Geld, and you have units that can give the ult gauge to her. So there we go. There's her EX ult. She doesn't need to be here anymore. We'll bring Romulus in. Okay, so orb changing is definitely a thing right here. Let's use Geld's orb change. And then we can get Geld out of here for Rimuru. We can use his green and then one of the others. Yeah, okay, that works. And yeah, we're gonna have enough points to nuke when all of her buffs leave, or yeah, all of her defense leaves. This magic resistance right here, and her guard, which guard doesn't really matter against alts. It doesn't matter at all. It only matters against normals. So just gotta wait one more turn and make sure we have enough, and we'll get another 2 stacks, probably 3 stacks on her. Yeah, this will work out. So this will be a pretty good showing of her being used as a pure DPS unit. Let's get Geld in here for Romulus, and then we can just use the orange and green. Perfect. And we're ready to go. She's gonna nuke somebody here. Hopefully she doesn't kill Rimuru. Although I guess if she does, it's not really a big a deal because we're not losing anything. So let's see how much damage we happen to do here. She hit Geld. Alright, that's fine. Okay, so we got 2 more stacks of ult resistance down. We'll bring you in for Geld, and we'll do our full buff plus another 2. So this should do good damage. Like, Millam's gonna die. She doesn't have that much health to begin with, right? And I think that also goes to show, it's like, I don't think Jean's really not necessary. She only has 252,000, and we're gonna do like 500k or something like that right here. So 100% ult damage, 70% ult damage, 50% space resistance down. Synergy power is not taking effect here because unless we hit the 2% chance to naturally do it, we're not going to activate it. But we still do 306,000 damage by herself with, you know, this 5 or so stacks of Diablo. Like, that's not bad damage for a very basic team with no other support except orb changing. So she does work, because she can buff herself to incredible highs just on herself alone, but you do need a team that can get you to that point. Blue stacking teams, blue orb changers, maybe an alt rusher here and there. So she is not self-sufficient in the terms of getting to a point where you can use all her buffs. She is self-sufficient in the fact that she can buff herself to do lots of damage, but she needs a team setup. She needs a blue orb changing team to get there. So I think it's one of her major drawbacks, because a lot of the other nukers, like Megamine, is an alt buffer, she's an orb changer, and she's giving herself a personal buff. Like, that's useful almost everywhere, and not just on her own team. Guy is the same way. Alt buff. The physical crit is, limited to physical, but there's a lot of those. And then he's also got the orb change. That's really good. Millum, Summer Memories Millum. She's got, her own very small personal buffs, but she's meant to be on a burst team. But she also has that steal all blue orbs to herself. Like, that makes her self-sufficient in order to get her to where she needs to be, to get her EX alt. Jaune, you have to either pray you get orbs for her, or force yourself to make a team that will feed orbs to her. So let's where else are we gonna take her? I mean, I guess we could go type neutral into Veldora stage. I guess it could work. It doesn't really make a whole ton of sense. It's just that, being a space unit with not a lot of space... Well, there's been 3 space metas, but a lot of them are AoEs. I have a terrible feeling she's going to fall off to the wayside very quickly, because, this is the only long-form space stage that we have so far, right now, that it's available, or the new beatdown battle, which, yeah, obviously you're going to use her there, or you're going to take her into Conquest and murder this thing. Who's the space team? Yeah, this. Let's just use the same. Actually, let's not even do that. Let's do Guy, right? Let's do Guy. Let's take out Geld for Isis, and this will just be a funny one-y kind of thing going on here. So Isis has the green buff, Guy's converting to greens. Maybe we can force our way into getting an alt for her, but I mean, this stage has even less health than that Tempered Edge. He only has like, what, 80k or something like that? So it's a friggin' joke. How much health does he have? Alright, that's not a terrible hand, but okay. He has 98,000 HP. I wonder how much damage we're going to do on 3 orbs by itself. Yeah. See, it's like, if you have Violet already, you probably don't need her. And Violet's going to be a lot more useful in other parts of the game, more so than Jaune, because Violet you can slap on a multiple number of teams and get away with it, because she is giving a generic buff to the entire team, and being an orb changer, which helps you get to a point where you can use certain buffs and everything like that. So let's do Guy here. That's going to give us extra alt gauge. It's going to give us a full hand of greens, and if the Sky Dragon doesn't die, then we can nuke him next turn, and we'll have enough points to use one skill for Jaune, because we only have a 100-point limit, right? So it's either we choose the 80-point buff or we choose the 55-point buff. And right here, honestly, it's going to be better to use the 80-point buff, because that's the generic 100% alt damage right here, because using this buff would give us space resistance down. But she doesn't have an EX alt, so this doesn't take effect either. So we gotta use this skill. And it's going to murder this thing. Like, no doubt right there. Yeah, we did 50k. It's not a lot of damage. No, it's not. For a 100% alt buff, but it's enough to clear this stage. And that's all that really matters at the end of the day. Will Jaune help you clear events? Yes. Are there other units on more profitable banners that will help you do that instead? Also, yes. So, I think the point I'm trying to make in this video is that she is, by no means, a bad unit. It's just that she is terribly limited like a lot of other DPS units that are very selfish and have no more generic usage outside of their meta. Because then they're locked into the protector. Like this, if you want to use Jaune at full power, you need synergy. And there's only one major protector that does that, and that's Lumi. And until we get a battle unit that gives us synergy rate on a skill, the Jaune's not really going to be used that much everywhere. Because you can't put her on a green team. Well, you could. You can't put her on a burst team, right? Or a defensive team, right? Because you don't have the skill points to do what you want with her. She needs synergy, and there's no other unit that can do it right now, which locks her onto a blue stacking team, which is where you want to use her. But I want versatility. I like Megumin and Guy because they're versatile. I like Shuna, and in some her own way Hinata, because she's got that triple orb steal. And Hinata's more of a support character than Shuna is, because Shuna's a DPS, but at the same time, she's still able to do something else for the team, which Jaune can also do. It's just very difficult to get to a point where you can use it efficiently. So I think we're going to call that a video for now. I'll probably do a follow-up with her when I think of some other ways that I can use her effectively. But overall, I would give her like an 8. An 8 out of 10. Big mommy damage. Everyone loves big mommy damage. Need very specific setups to do so. Overly specific setups to do so. And that hurts her. So, I mean, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I know some people are not going to like this video. They're not going to like my outlook on her because of reasons and opinions and such. And, that's totally fine. I'm not here to try and change your mind. I'm just trying to point things out to you in a mostly objective manner. But I really do feel like once November is gone and it's, like February, March, like we're not going to talk about her unless it's we have a Jaune unit in the game. Cool. Until we get like another version of her or something like that, which is going to happen. It's going to be her and Blanc in a bikini or something next year probably. But yeah, that's it for me, guys. Take it easy, and I'll see you all later.